Welcome to lesson 7.12. And today we're looking at more word problems. We're looking at some new plots to add to our repertoire. Once again, that term plots is really the new concept here, while the patterns and the ideas are not. You've been working with these for a long time. So, comparing and elapsed time. So here is our comparing pattern. And so we can throw that word up there. So what does it stand for? G stands for greater, L stands for lesser, and D stands for the difference. And so we have those three ideas. Greater minus lesser equals the difference. Let's take a look at a problem to see how these work. So our example says the hike to the summit of Mount Whitney, which is what you're looking at in the picture there, began from, I need a spell check assistant, I guess. The upper trailhead at 8,365 feet. The elevation of Mount Whitney's summit is 14,495 feet. I didn't really say that number, I just mumbled it, but that's okay because you can read it. All right, that's not me being a good teacher. Moving on, which equation shows how to find the elevation gain from the trailhead to the summit? All right, and so the idea here that we're looking at is, okay, how are we going to solve this problem? How are we going to do it? Once again, we got the greater, we got the lesser, so what do we need to do to see the change or the difference in elevation, right? So the greater amount, boom, that one's pretty easy, right? Let me throw the equation. Greater minus lesser equals difference, right? Greater number, of course, is 14, right? And what the lesser distance, of course, is that. And that's going to give us a difference, right? And so we can use that idea to solve this equation. And the cool part is since we understand how to do this, right, there's nothing wrong with setting up the problem and using our trusty calculator to help us out with that, right? As long as we set it up the right way, that shows we understand it and we can do our math and solve to find that D equals 6,131 feet, right? And so we have that idea. That is not a J, that is the worst comma I've ever made. I must be in a hurry or something. We have that example. Let's take a look at our other one. Now technically, when we look at this, we could really say that the plot of a time elapsed or elapsed time is also comparing. But instead of a greater minus a lesser, you're doing a later time minus an earlier time, getting us a difference, right? So we do call these elapsed time. That's the pattern that we're following. But technically, they are also, it is really a comparing plot. We're just comparing two different ideas, and so we have a slightly different equation. So we have the later time minus the earlier time is going to give us the difference. And so we can look at that. All right. Our example here then says, how many years were there from Columbus's discovery in 1492 and the Declaration of Independence in 1776? All right, so we have the later time, right? L, E, D, later time of 1776 minus the earlier time of 1492 is going to give us the difference in years. And we can throw that one up here, right, and get an answer of 284 years. Does that answer make sense, right? The easiest way to check that is do a little bit of rounding, right? I see a 14 here, I see a 17 here. 1700 minus 1400 is about 300 years, right? This number is close. This, right? I could also round and say, okay, this rounds to about 1500, this rounds to about 1800. It's about 300 years. And then I look down here, does my answer make sense? Yeah, it's reasonable, right? It's a reasonable answer since they are about 300 years apart, but we have this exactness of 284 years. So we can use that process to check our answer also, thinking about, does it make sense? Does that number make sense? Which is always important when it comes to word problems. All right, that's it. Two little patterns, one big idea, and the idea of comparing whether it's greater and lesser or later and earlier. And so we have our sample problem here looking at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Go ahead and do this sample problem and have fun. That's it for 7.12.